There's a version of you that never got to live. And tonight, as you lie here in the darkness, maybe you can feel her, waiting. She's been there all along, beneath the surface of the life you built. The roles you played, the choices you made. And Jung understood this. He called it the unlived life, the parts of ourselves that we set aside, the dreams we deferred, the woman we were meant to become but somehow never did. And tonight we're going to sit with her, not to resurrect her, not to try to become her now, but to finally, gently, let her rest, to acknowledge her, to honor her, and to understand why she never got to live. Because that matters. It matters deeply. And your soul has been carrying this, carrying her, all these years, waiting for you to turn around and see. You're lying here tonight and maybe you're tired. Not just physically tired, but soul tired. The kind of tired that comes from living a life that wasn't quite yours. From playing roles that were expected. From making choices that were safe. From becoming someone you thought you should be instead of someone you were. And I want to be clear. This doesn't mean your life has been wrong or wasted or meaningless. It just means there was another version, another possibility, another you, who wanted different things, who dreamed different dreams, who would have made different choices if she'd been given the chance, if she'd been allowed, if you'd been brave enough or free enough or aware enough to let her live. And she's still there, inside you, waiting, not demanding, not angry, just waiting, to be seen, to be acknowledged, to finally be allowed to rest. Jung spent years studying this phenomenon, how we split ourselves, how we choose one path and the other paths. They don't disappear. They live on in the unconscious, haunting us, calling to us, showing up in our dreams and our longings, and that strange sense of, what if? What if I had chosen differently? What if I had been braver? What if I had listened to that quiet voice inside me, instead of all the loud voices around me telling me who I should be? And for women especially, and I say this gently, the unlived life is often significant because you were taught from so young to be good, to be accommodating, to put others first, to make yourself smaller so others could be bigger, to defer your dreams so others could live theirs. And maybe you did that willingly. Maybe you did it with love. Maybe you wouldn't change it even if you could. But that doesn't mean there isn't death grief, real grief, for the version of you that never got her turn, that never got to find out who she might have become. Think about her for a moment. This other you. Can you see her? Can you feel her? What did she want? What did she dream about when you were young before the world told you what you should want instead? Maybe she wanted to travel, to see the world, to have adventures, to be free and wild and unbounded by anyone's expectations. Maybe she wanted to create, to paint or write or dance or make music, to express something deep inside that had no words. Maybe she wanted to be powerful, to have a voice, to take up space, to lead and decide and matter in ways you were told weren't feminine or appropriate or allowed. Maybe she just wanted time to think, to be, to discover who she was without constantly attending to everyone else's needs. Time to be still and quiet and listen to her own soul instead of always listening, managing, caring for, fixing everyone else. And maybe you made a choice. Maybe you stood at a crossroads, literally or metaphorically, and you chose. You chose the safe path, the expected path, the path that made others comfortable. And maybe it was the right choice. Maybe it was the only choice you could make at the time with what you knew and who you were and what was possible. But that other path, it didn't disappear. That other version of you, she didn't die. She went underground, into the shadow, into the unconscious, and she's been there ever since, living a parallel life in your psyche, the life you didn't choose, the woman you didn't become. And sometimes, late at night, or in quiet moments, or when you see someone else living freely in a way you never allowed yourself, you feel her. You feel the ache of her, the longing of her, the what if of her. Jung would say this is natural. This is how the psyche works. We can't live every possibility. We have to choose. And in choosing one path, we necessarily leave other paths unlived. But those unlived paths, those unlived selves, they carry a kind of weight, a kind of grief, because they represent potential that never became actual, dreams that never manifested, a version of you that never got to find out who she might have been, what she might have created, how she might have loved or lived or expressed herself if given the chance. And that deserves acknowledgement. It deserves to be seen, to be felt, to be honored, not with regret necessarily, not with the torture of what if, but with tenderness, with compassion, with the understanding that you did the best you could. And still, there was loss, real loss. And it's okay to grieve that. I want to tell you something personal. When I think about my own unlived life, the versions of me that never got to be, I feel this ache. It's not sharp. It's not dramatic. It's just there, a low hum of something. Some path not taken, some dream deferred, some part of me that said, yes, I want that, and then life said, no, not for you and I. Accepted it. Maybe I had to. Maybe there was no other choice. But the wanting didn't go away. It just went quiet, went underground. And sometimes, in moments like this, in the darkness, in the stillness, I can feel her, that other version. And I wonder, who would I be if I had chosen differently? And there's grief in that wondering. But there's also something else. Something like permission. Permission to finally stop pretending she never existed. Permission to acknowledge that yes, there was another way, another me, and she never got to live. And that matters. It matters. So as you lie here tonight, I want you to consider, who was she? That other you. The one you were supposed to become before life intervened, before responsibilities piled up, before you learned to make yourself small, before you chose safety over becoming. Who was she? What did she look like? How did she move through the world? What lit her up? What made her come alive? Not what you thought should make you come alive, not what others said was important, but what actually, truly called to her, to you, to that deepest part of yourself that knew, that always knew what you really wanted. before you learned to want what you were supposed to want instead. And maybe this feels painful. Maybe it feels like opening a wound you've kept carefully bandaged for years or decades. And if that's true, if this hurts, I want you to know that's okay. That's part of the process. Jung understood that you can't heal what you won't feel. You can't integrate what you won't acknowledge. And the unlived life, it lives in the shadow, in the darkness, in the places we don't want to look, because looking means feeling. And feeling means grieving. And grieving means admitting that yes, there was loss, real loss. Even if the life you chose, the life you built, has been good and full and meaningful, there was still another possibility, another you, and she never got her chance. And that deserves your tears, if tears want to come. It deserves your acknowledgement, your witnessing, your tenderness. Jung talked about how the unlived life of the parent becomes the burden of the child. And maybe you've seen this. Maybe you've felt it. The ways your own unlived dreams, your own deferred longings, have shown up in your relationships, in your children if you have them, in the ways you've pushed or pulled or projected onto others, what you couldn't allow yourself, not consciously, not intentionally. But it happens when we don't live our own lives fully, when we don't honor our own becoming. It spills over. It has to go somewhere. And often it goes into trying to live through others, or holding others back because if I couldn't have it, neither can you, or resenting others for having what we didn't allow ourselves. These are shadow dynamics, and they're human. They're understandable. And tonight, we're just noticing them. Not with judgment, but with compassion, with the understanding that we're all just trying our best with what we know, with what we've been given, with the wounds we carry. There's something Jung said that's always stayed with me. He said that the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parent. And when I first heard that, I felt it. I felt the weight of my own parents' unlived dreams, the ways they'd given things up, set things aside, made themselves smaller, and how that shaped me, constrained me, burdened me in ways I didn't understand until much later. And then I thought about my own unlived life and how that might be affecting others, the people I love. And there was such grief in that, such a sense of, oh, I thought I was protecting them by not pursuing my dreams, by not being selfish, by putting them first, always. But maybe I was actually burdening them with my unlived life, with my unspoken resentments, with my quiet what-ifs. And maybe the most loving thing I could do, the most generous thing, would be to actually live, to stop waiting for permission, to stop making myself small, to stop deferring and deferring until someday that never comes. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Tonight, we're not trying to fix anything. We're not trying to suddenly become that other version. We're just sitting with her, acknowledging her, seeing her, maybe for the first time in years or decades, really seeing her, the woman you were meant to be, the woman you never got to become, and asking, gently, without judgment, why? Why didn't she get to live? What happened? What choices were made? What circumstances intervened? What fears held you back? What voices told you no? What responsibilities took precedence? What did you sacrifice? And for what? Or for whom? And was it worth it? Not in a way that makes you wrong, but just honestly, was it worth it? And if you could go back, knowing what you know now, would you choose the same? And here's what's interesting, what's important to understand. It's not actually about going back. You can't go back. That moment has passed. Those choices were made. That version of you, she's not coming back. She can't. Too much time has passed. Too much has happened. You're not that person anymore. The world isn't what it was. The possibilities that existed then, they're gone. And there's grief in that too. The grief of, it's too late. I missed my chance. I waited too long. I gave up my turn. And now it's just over. That dream, that version, that possibility, it's gone. And I have to live with that, have to carry that, have to somehow make peace with the fact that there was a me that never got to be. And now, she never will. But here's what Jung understood. Here's what might offer some solace, some meaning. The unlived life. It doesn't have to stay unlived. Not completely, not forever. Yes, that specific version of you, that specific path, it's gone. But the essence of what she wanted, the qualities she embodied, the longings she carried, those can still, in some form, find expression. Maybe not in the way you originally imagined, maybe not in the grand dramatic way you once dreamed, but in smaller ways, quieter ways, ways that are possible now, in this life, at this age, with these circumstances. You can reclaim pieces of her. You can honor her. You can let some of what she wanted, finally, live. Even if it's just in small moments, in choices you make, in ways you show up, in permission you give yourself to be a little more her, a little more you, the real you, underneath all the roles and responsibilities and expectations. And maybe that looks like finally taking that class you always wanted to take, or finally saying no to something you don't want to do, or finally admitting out loud, I wanted something different. I wanted more. I wanted to matter in a different way. Or maybe it's just quieter than that. Maybe it's just letting yourself feel what you feel, without immediately managing it or suppressing it or making it smaller so others are comfortable. Maybe it's just taking an hour for yourself without guilt, or speaking up when you'd normally stay silent, or choosing yourself just once, just in some small way, instead of automatically choosing everyone else. These are small acts, but they matter. They're acts of reclamation, acts of honoring the woman you were meant to be, even if she never got to fully be. Jung would say that the second half of life is about different things than the first half. The first half is about building, establishing yourself, creating a life, playing the roles, meeting expectations, becoming someone in the world's terms. But the second half, if you're willing, if you're paying attention, the second half is about. Becoming yourself, your real self. The self underneath the persona, underneath the roles, underneath all the shoulds and supposed tos. And that often means confronting the unlived life, looking at what you set aside, what you sacrificed, what you never got to become, and grieving that. Yes, but also asking, is it completely too late? Or is there still some version, some essence, some possibility of bringing her home, of integrating what she represented, of letting some of what she wanted finally breathe? And I know this might feel complicated, might feel like, but I'm too old now. I'm too tired. I have too many responsibilities. It's too late to start over. I missed my chance. And maybe that's true. Maybe the grand version of that dream, that path, it is too late. But what if it's not about starting over? What if it's not about abandoning your life or blowing everything up or suddenly becoming someone completely different? What if it's just about making space, making a little bit of space for her, for that part of you, for what she wanted, for who she was, not instead of your life, but alongside it, integrated into it, in whatever small ways are possible. Now, at this stage, with these circumstances, what if the point isn't to become her, but just to stop pretending she never existed, stop ignoring her, stop keeping her locked away in the shadow, and instead, finally, let her breathe, let her have some space, some voice, some expression, however small. Because here's what I've come to understand. The unlived life, it doesn't just go away. It doesn't just fade. If you ignore it long enough, it stays. It lives in the unconscious, and it affects you. It shows up as restlessness, as that vague sense of, is this all there is? As resentment that you don't quite understand, as depression that seems to have no clear cause, as a feeling of emptiness, even when your life is full. Jung understood this. He saw it in his patients, over and over. People who had done everything right, who had built good lives, who had been responsible and dutiful and good, and yet they were miserable, or at least deeply unsatisfied. And when he looked deeper, when he explored with them, almost always, there was an unlived life. There was a version of themselves they'd set aside, dreams they'd deferred, longings they'd suppressed, and that unlived life, it was haunting them, creating symptoms, depression, anxiety, a sense of meaninglessness. Because the soul, it knows. It knows when you're not living your life, when you're living someone else's idea of what your life should be, when you're playing roles instead of being. And so the work, the real work, is to turn toward that, to look at the unlived life, to acknowledge it, to grieve it, and then to ask, what now? What can I reclaim? What can I honor? What small acts of becoming are still possible? Not to undo the past, not to erase the choices made, but to integrate, to bring some of that unlived energy into the life I'm actually living. So it's not trapped, in the shadow anymore. So it's not haunting me, draining me, making me bitter or resentful or numb, so it can finally have some expression, some life. Even if it's not the grand life it might have been, even if it's just small moments, small choices, small ways of honoring who she was, who I was meant to be, before I learned to be what I became instead. I want you to think about the roles you play, the identities you've taken on. Mother, maybe, wife, daughter, caregiver, professional, friend, all of these. They're real, they're meaningful, they matter, but are they you, or are they what you do, who you became for others? But underneath all of that, underneath the roles, who are you? Who were you? Before you learned to be all of these things for everyone else, can you even remember? Or has it been so long that she feels like a dream, like someone you imagined once, or someone who never really existed at all? Just a fantasy, a what if, a might have been, but not real, not anymore. Maybe never was, but she was real. I promise you, she was real. That longing, that wanting, that sense of there's something else, something more, something, me, that I've never quite been able to be. That's real. That's her. That's the unlived life, calling to you. And she doesn't need to take over your whole life. She doesn't need to destroy everything you've built. She just needs to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be honored, to finally have someone, Jung, turn toward her and say, I see you. I know you were there. I know you wanted something different. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry you never got to live. I'm sorry I chose other things. I'm sorry I made you wait and wait and wait until it was too late. I'm sorry, and maybe that's what tonight is really about. Not fixing, not changing, not becoming, just apologizing to her, to that version of you, for not giving her a chance, for not being brave enough, or free enough, or aware enough to let her live. And maybe, in that apology, in that acknowledgement, there's some peace, some release, some letting go, not of her, but of the torture, of the what if, of the endless loop of I should have, I could have, if only, maybe, in finally seeing her, in finally saying, yes, you were real, and yes, you never got to live, and yes, that's sad, and yes, I'm sorry. Maybe in that, there's some softness, some gentleness, some compassion for her and for you, for the choices you made, for the life you built, for doing the best you could with what you knew and who you were and what was possible at the time. Jung believed that the psyche is always moving toward wholeness, always trying to integrate what's been split off, always calling us home to ourselves and the unlived life. It's part of that calling. It's the psyche saying, you left something behind, you set something aside, and it's time to turn around, to look at it, to see it, to bring it home. Not literally, Not by undoing your life, but psychologically, by acknowledging it, by giving it space in your awareness, by no longer pretending it never existed, by finally letting yourself feel the grief of what never was. And in feeling that grief, in really letting yourself feel it, there's, paradoxically, freedom, because you're no longer running from it, no longer suppressing it, no longer trying to not feel what you actually feel. You're just feeling it. And feeling, even painful feeling, is alive. It's real. It's you finally being real. So, tonight, as you lie here in the darkness, I invite you to just be with her. That other version, that woman who never got to live. Don't try to fix her. Don't try to bring her back. Don't try to figure out what to do about her. Just be with her. Feel her. Let yourself imagine her. See her. Who was she? What did she want? What did she dream? What lit her up? What made her her? And as you see her, as you feel her, notice what comes up. Maybe it's grief, maybe it's rage, maybe it's regret, maybe it's just sadness. A quiet, tender sadness for what never was, for who never got to be. And whatever you feel, that's okay. That's yours. That's real. Let it be there. Let it move through you. You don't have to do anything with it. You just have to feel it. Because feeling it is the first step toward integration, toward healing, toward finally letting her rest. And rest is what she needs, not resurrection, not a second chance, just rest. She's been waiting so long, waiting for you to turn around, to see her, to acknowledge that yes, she was real, and yes, she mattered, and yes, it's sad that she never got to live. And now, finally, you're turning around. You're seeing her. And in being seen, she can finally rest. She doesn't have to haunt you anymore. Doesn't have to show up as vague dissatisfaction or restlessness or that nagging sense of something's missing. She can just be there in your awareness, acknowledged, honored, grieved, and then gently, lovingly laid to rest. Not forgotten, but integrated. Part of you, part of your story, part of what makes you, you. The woman who chose one path and left another, and carries both, the path taken and the path not taken. And both matter, both are real, and both deserve your tenderness. So rest now. Let these words settle into you. Let the image of her, that other you, be there in the background of your awareness as you drift. You don't have to figure anything out tonight. You don't have to make any decisions. You just have to see her, feel her, acknowledge her, and let yourself grieve. If grief wants to come, or just be with the tender sadness of what never was. Because that's real, that's true, and it matters. She matters. You matter. All of you. The version who lived and the version who never got to. Both matter. Both are you. And tonight, finally, you're letting both be here, be real, be seen. And in that seeing, there's something, some kind of healing, some kind of peace, some kind of coming home to all of yourself. Not just the parts that got to live, but also the parts that didn't. All of you. Finally. Together. Finally. Whole. Finally. At rest. There's something about the quiet hours. The hours when the world is sleeping and you're here, alone with your thoughts, that makes certain truths easier to see. Truths you've been avoiding, or didn't know how to name, or weren't ready to face. And one of those truths, one that Jung understood so deeply, is that we all carry multiple selves, multiple possibilities, multiple versions of who we might have been. And most of those versions, they never get to live. They stay. Potential. Unlived. Waiting in the wings of our psyche while one version, the version we chose or that circumstances chose for us, takes center stage and lives, the actual life. But those other versions, they don't disappear. They remain in the unconscious, shaping us in ways we don't fully understand, calling to us in dreams and longings and that persistent sense that something is missing. Even when we can't quite say what, you're still here, still breathing, still resting in the darkness. And maybe you can feel her now, a little more clearly. That other you, the one who wanted different things, the one who dreamed different dreams, the one who might have been, if circumstances had been different, if you had been braver, if the world had been kinder, if you'd had more support or fewer responsibilities or less fear or more permission. Permission to be who you actually were instead of who you thought you should be. Permission to want what you actually wanted instead of what you were told to want. Permission to live your life instead of the life that was expected, prescribed, demanded. And maybe you're starting to understand now that the grief you've been carrying, that vague sadness that seems to have no name, maybe it's her. It's the unlived life, mourning itself. Mourning the fact that it never got its turn, never got to find out what it might have become. Jung worked with so many people, particularly women, who came to him in the second half of life, feeling empty, depressed, lost. And when he explored with them, when he helped them look beneath the surface of their carefully constructed lives, almost always he found an unlived life, a self that had been sacrificed, dreams that had been set aside, longings that had been suppressed. And these weren't small things. These were core parts of the self, essential qualities, deep callings, things that, if honored, if lived, would have made them more themselves, more whole, more alive. But instead, these parts had been pushed down, locked away, because they didn't fit, because they weren't practical, because other people needed things, because there wasn't time or money or support, because it was selfish, because good women don't, because you should be grateful for what you have, because, 1,000 reasons, all of them understandable, all of them human, and yet the result is the same: a life half-lived, a self incomplete, and a persistent aching sense that there should be more. There was supposed to be more. You were meant for more, but somehow it never happened. I want you to think about the bargains you made, the trade-offs, the compromises. When you were young, maybe you thought, I'll do this now, the responsible thing, the expected thing, and later I'll do what I really want. Later I'll pursue my dreams. Later I'll become who I'm meant to be. Later, when the kids are grown, when I have more money, when I have more time, when. But later never came. Did it, or it came. But by then, you were so tired, so worn down by years of putting yourself last, of making yourself small, of serving everyone else's needs and dreams and lives, that you didn't have anything left for her, for that other you, for the dreams you'd been saving for later. They'd faded, or you'd changed, or the world had changed, or it just felt too late, too risky, too hard to start over, too much to ask. And so you didn't. You just kept going, kept doing what you'd always done, kept being who you'd become, even though, underneath, you knew, this isn't quite right. This isn't quite me. There's someone else I was supposed to be, and I'm not her. And I don't know if I ever will be. And maybe you even told yourself it was fine. You told yourself, I made my choices. I have a good life. I should be grateful. Other people have it worse. I'm being selfish to want more. I'm being ungrateful. I'm being unreasonable. And so you pushed down the wanting. You suppressed the longing. You tried to make peace with it. Tried to convince yourself that this is enough. This has to be enough. Because this is what I have. And I can't change it. And wanting more just makes me miserable. So better to not want. Better to accept. Better to be grateful for what is, instead of mourning what isn't, what never was, what never will be. And maybe, for a while, that worked. Maybe you were able to quiet her, that other you, that unlived life. Maybe you were able to push her so far down that you barely felt her anymore, barely remembered her, barely knew she was there. But she's still there, isn't she? You can feel her, especially in moments like this. In the quiet, in the dark. When there's no one to perform for, no one to take care of, no role to play, just you, alone with yourself. And there she is, waiting, still wanting, still longing, still unlived. And you can't push her away anymore. Can't pretend she doesn't exist. Can't keep telling yourself it doesn't matter. Because it does matter. She matters. The life you didn't live matters. The woman you never became matters. And tonight, we're finally going to let that be true. We're going to stop minimizing it. Stop rationalizing it. Stop defending against it. We're just going to let it be true. Yes, there was another version. And no, she never got to live. And yes, that's sad. And yes, it's okay to feel that. It's okay to grieve that. It's okay to, finally, stop pretending it doesn't hurt. Jung understood that. The psyche doesn't forget. It doesn't just move on. The parts of ourselves we don't live, they stay with us. They live in what he called the shadow, the unconscious, the dark. And they affect us. They shape us. They create symptoms. Not physical symptoms necessarily, though sometimes those too, but psychological symptoms. Depression, anxiety, restlessness, a sense of meaninglessness, a feeling that nothing quite satisfies, nothing quite fills the emptiness. Because the emptiness isn't about what you don't have. It's about who you're not being. It's about the unlived life, taking up space in your psyche, demanding attention, demanding to be seen, to be acknowledged, to finally be allowed to rest. Because she can't rest, that other you. As long as you're ignoring her, as long as you're pretending she doesn't exist, as long as you're telling yourself it doesn't matter, she'll keep calling. She'll keep showing up as dissatisfaction, as restlessness, as that persistent question, is this all there is? Is this really my life? Did I really choose this? Or did I just let it happen? Did I just drift? Did I just do what I was told and never quite stop to ask, is this what I want? Is this who I want to be? Is this the life that makes me me? Or am I just playing a role, being who I'm supposed to be instead of who I am? These are hard questions, I know, and maybe you don't have answers. Maybe you don't even want to ask them, because what would you do with the answers? What would you do if you realized, no, this isn't the life I would have chosen. This isn't who I am. This isn't what I want. What then? It's too late to start over. Too late to change everything. Too late to become that other version. And so, maybe it's better not to ask. Better not to know. Better to just keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep being who you've been. And try not to think too much about what never was, who never got to be. But here's what I've learned. Here's what Jung discovered. Not asking the questions, not looking at the unlived life, doesn't make it go away. It just makes it underground. It just makes it shadow, and shadow material. It has power. It affects you. It shapes your mood, your energy, your relationships, your sense of meaning and purpose. You can't not be affected by it just because you're not looking at it. In fact, you're more affected by it when you're not looking at it, because then it operates unconsciously, pulling strings you don't even know are there, creating feelings you don't understand, driving behaviors that don't quite make sense. But when you look at it, when you turn toward it, when you name it and acknowledge it and feel it, then at least it's conscious. then at least you know what you're dealing with. Then at least you can work with it, instead of being ruled by it. So that's what we're doing tonight. We're turning toward it, the unlived life, the other you. We're looking at her, really looking, not to torture ourselves, not to spiral into regret and what-ifs, but to see her, to acknowledge her, to honor the fact that yes, she was real, she mattered, and she never got to live. And that's sad. It's just sad. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. It doesn't have to mean your whole life was wrong or wasted or a mistake. It just means there was another possibility, and it didn't happen. And that's worth grieving, worth feeling, worth sitting with for a moment, for tonight, before we let her go, before we help her rest. I want to talk about the particular pain that women carry around the unlived life, because it's different, I think, or at least it has particular qualities that come from the way women are raised, the way women are socialized, the messages women get about who they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to want, how they're supposed to live. And so much of that is about others, about being for others, living for others, sacrificing for others, making yourself smaller so others can be bigger, putting yourself last, always last. And maybe you were told that was noble. That was love. That was what good women do. Good mothers, good wives, good daughters. They give, they serve, they nurture. They put everyone else first, and their own needs, their own dreams, their own becoming. Well, those can wait. Those can come later. Those are selfish. Those are optional. Those are not as important as everyone else's needs, everyone else's dreams, everyone else's lives. And so you did that. Maybe willingly, maybe with love, maybe believing it was right, and maybe, in many ways, it was right. Maybe the people you loved needed you. Maybe the sacrifices you made mattered, made a real difference, allowed others to thrive, to become, to live their dreams. And that's not nothing. That's meaningful. That's real. But does it have to mean that your dreams don't matter? That your becoming doesn't count? That your life is only valuable in service to others, in relation to others, but never for its own sake? Never. Just because you matter, you have worth, you deserve to become who you're meant to be, not because it serves someone else, not because it makes you a better wife or mother or daughter, but just because you're a human being with a soul that wants to express itself. And that soul, your soul, it matters. Even if no one else is served by it, even if it's just for you, it still matters. Jung worked primarily with women in his practice, and he saw, over and over, this pattern. Women who had given everything, and when he would ask them, "What do you want? What are your dreams? What calls to you?" They couldn't answer. They didn't know. They'd been so focused on everyone else for so long that they'd lost touch with themselves, lost touch with their own wants, their own needs, their own soul. And he understood that this was a kind of death, a death of the self, and that it needed to be mourned. But more than that, it needed to be reversed, not by abandoning everyone, not by suddenly becoming selfish, but by slowly, carefully beginning to reclaim some space for the self, some room for her, for the woman underneath the roles, for the soul underneath the persona, for the dreams that had been set aside. Not all of them, not in the grand way they might have been lived when she was young, but some version, some essence, something that allowed her to finally be not just a mother or wife or daughter or caregiver, but herself, a woman, a soul, a being with her own life, her own becoming, her own right to exist, not for anyone else, but for herself. And I know this might sound radical. It might sound selfish, especially if you've been taught your whole life that women who prioritize themselves are bad, wrong, selfish, unfeminine. But what if that's not true? What if the most loving thing, the most generous thing, the healthiest thing is actually to honor your own becoming, to live your own life, to let your own soul breathe? Because when you don't, when you suppress yourself, when you live only for others, you become bitter, resentful, depleted, empty, and you can't actually love well from that place. You can't actually serve well from that place. You're just going through the motions, performing the role, but the aliveness is gone, the joy is gone, the actual love is gone, and what's left is just duty, obligation, going through the motions because you have to, because you don't know what else to do, because this is who you are now, and maybe it's too late to be anyone else. But what if it's not too late? What if, even now, even at this age, with these circumstances, with this life, there's still some room, some possibility for her, for that other you, for some version, some essence of what she wanted, who she was, what she dreamed? What if it's not about undoing your life, not about starting over, not about becoming that young woman again with all those possibilities, but about bringing some of her into your life now, letting some of what she wanted finally have space, have breath, have expression in whatever small ways are possible now, here, with what you have, with who you are, with the life you're actually living. Maybe that means taking up a hobby you always wanted to try. Maybe it means saying no to something you don't want to do. Maybe it means taking time for yourself without apologizing. Maybe it means speaking your truth even when it makes others uncomfortable. Maybe it means pursuing some small dream, some small version of what you always wanted, not the big dramatic version, but something that says, I matter too. My dreams matter too. My soul matters too. And I'm going to honor that. I'm going to give that some space, some room, some life. Finally, after all this time, after all this waiting, after all this, deferring and sacrificing and putting myself last. I'm going to choose me, just a little, just in some small way, just once, or maybe more than once, maybe regularly, maybe finally. I'm going to let her live, that other me, even if it's just in small moments, in small choices, in small ways of being, that feel more real, more me, more alive than anything I've let myself be in years or decades or ever. Jung believed that the process of individuation, the process of becoming whole, it requires us to integrate all the parts of ourselves, not just the parts that got to live, not just the parts that were acceptable or appropriate or allowed, but all of it, including the unlived life, including the dreams we set aside, including the versions of ourselves that never got their turn. We have to bring them home, acknowledge them, give them space in our awareness, let them be part of who we are, part of our story, part of our wholeness, because without them, we're not whole. We're fragmented, split, part of us living, and part of us locked away in the shadow, waiting, wanting, never quite at peace. And bringing them home doesn't mean living them now, doesn't mean trying to resurrect them or become them. It means acknowledging them, feeling the grief of them, honoring what they represented, and then asking, what essence can I reclaim? What quality can I integrate? What small piece can I allow to finally live, to finally be, to finally have some expression in my actual life, not as a fantasy, not as a what if, but as something real, something lived, something mine. There's a concept in Jungian psychology called the anima. For men, it's the inner feminine. For women, it's called the animus, the inner masculine. But beyond the gender language, what Jung was really talking about is the soul, the parts of ourselves that don't fit the persona, don't fit the role, the parts that are wild, creative, spiritual, deep, the parts that want connection to something larger, want meaning, want to matter in ways that go beyond the everyday, the practical, the expected, and for so many women, especially women of a certain generation, the anima, the soul. She got set aside. She got locked away because there was no room for her, no time, no permission, no path for a woman to be soulful, to be deep, to be searching in the way that men were allowed to search, in the way that artists were allowed to create. There was just role and duty and service. And that's important. That matters. But it's not everything. It's not enough. Not for a whole life. Not for a whole self. So part of what we're grieving tonight, part of what we're acknowledging, is that the soul part of you, the deep part, the part that wanted to create, to explore, to discover, to become, that part she never got to really live. She never got to really be. And that's worth mourning. That's worth tears. If tears want to come because losing your soul or never quite finding it in the first place, that's a real loss. Maybe the realest loss. Because everything else, everything you did do, everything you did become, all the roles you played, they might have been good, important, meaningful. But if they weren't soul-connected, if they weren't coming from that deep place of, this is who I really am, this is what really matters to me, this is my purpose, my calling, my truth, then something essential was missing, and you felt it. Even if you couldn't name it, even if you tried to ignore it, you felt it. That emptiness, that sense of something's not right. I'm living, but I'm not alive. I'm here, but I'm not present. I'm doing all the things, but I'm not me. And so tonight we're saying, yes, that's true. Something was missing. Someone was missing. You were missing. The real you, the soul you, the deep you. She never got to fully come out, to fully be, to fully live. And that's sad. It's just profoundly, sadly, sad. And it's okay to feel that. It's okay to let yourself finally feel what you've been not letting yourself feel for years, for decades, maybe for your whole life. The grief of the unlived life, the grief of the woman who never got to be, the grief of dreams deferred and deferred and deferred until they weren't even dreams anymore. They were just ghosts haunting you, reminding you of what might have been, of who you might have been. If things had been different, if you had been braver, if the world had been kinder, if you had known then what you know now about how short life is, about how it doesn't wait, about how someday never comes, about how you only get one chance, and if you don't take it, if you keep deferring, keep waiting, keep putting yourself last, then one day you wake up and realize it's over. The chance is gone. The door is closed. And the woman you were meant to be, she never got to live. And now, she never will. But here's the thing. Here's what Jung would say. Here's what might offer some comfort, some hope, even now, even at this late hour, even after all this time. It's not completely over. Yes, that specific dream, that specific path, that specific version of you, she's gone. That time has passed, but the essence of what she wanted, the qualities she embodied, the soul she represented, that can still find expression, not in the grand way you once imagined, not in the way it might have been if you'd started younger or had more support or fewer obstacles, but in small ways, quiet ways, ways that are possible now, in this life, at this age, with these circumstances. You can still honor her. You can still let some of what she wanted live, even if it's just in small moments, small choices, small acts of becoming, finally, yourself. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it has to be enough. Because it's what's available. It's what's possible. And the alternative is continuing to ignore her. Continuing to keep her locked away. Continuing to pretend it doesn't matter. And that doesn't serve anyone. Not you. Not the people you love. Not the world. Because a woman living half a life, a woman disconnected from her soul, A woman who's given up on her own becoming. She's not her best self. She's not fully alive. She's not really here. She's just going through the motions. And that's sad for her and for everyone who loves her, who wants to know the real her, the full her, the woman she might be if she finally let herself be. So, as you rest here tonight, as you breathe and settle and drift, I want you to imagine, what would it look like to let her live? That other you, that unlived version, not in some dramatic way, not by blowing up your life, but in small ways. What if you said yes to something you want, just once? What if you said no to something you don't want, just once? What if you took an hour, a day, a weekend, just for you, for what you want, for what calls to you, without guilt, without apologizing, without explaining, just because you matter, because your soul matters, because that woman inside you, she's been waiting so long, and maybe it's finally time to give her some room, some space, some permission to finally, after all this time, live. And so we arrive here, in the middle of the night, in the middle of this meditation, in the middle, perhaps, of your life. And there's something about the middle that feels liminal, in between. Jung understood this, the midpoint, where you're no longer young but not yet old, no longer becoming but not yet fully become. And it's here, in this in-between space, that she appears most clearly. The woman you never became. She's not angry, not accusing, just present, waiting, as she's always been waiting. And maybe tonight, maybe now, you can finally see her, really see her, without turning away. There are so many versions of ourselves that never got to live. Did you know that? Jung believed we contain multitudes, infinite possible selves, and the one we chose, or the one that was chosen for us, that's just one path through an infinite forest of paths. And all the others, they don't disappear. They live on, in the shadow, in dreams, in these quiet moments when you can't sleep, when you're lying here wondering, what if? The woman you never became, she had dreams, didn't she? Do you remember them? Or have they faded now, worn away by years of practical concerns, of responsibilities, of being needed in ways that left no room for wanting? Jung said the unlived life is the most powerful force in a person's psychology. It shapes everything. Your relationships, your choices, your regrets. Because what you don't become, what you don't live, it doesn't just vanish. It waits. There was a version of you who was going to be an artist, maybe. Or was it a writer? A traveler, a wild thing, uncontained by anyone's expectations. There was a version who was going to say no to the marriage, to the job, to the life that looked good on paper but felt like a costume you couldn't take off. And you didn't become her. And maybe you had good reasons. You probably did. We all do. But she's still there, isn't she? Still waiting, still wondering. Why not me? Why didn't I get to live? And the painful truth that Jung understood is that often we don't even know we've abandoned her until years later, decades later. When we wake up one day and look around and think, how did I get here? Who chose this life? And the answer, the hard answer, is that you did, but not the whole you, just the part that learned to be safe, to be acceptable, to be what others needed. And the rest of you, the wild part, the dreaming part, the part that wanted, she got left behind. And you might be thinking, but I had no choice. I had children to raise, parents to care for, bills to pay, a life to build. And yes, of course, Jung isn't saying you should have abandoned your responsibilities. He's just saying there was a cost. And maybe you're only now, in the middle of the night, in the quiet, finally able to feel it, the grief of it, the weight of all those unlived lives, women especially. And Jung didn't write enough about this, but I think he would understand. Women especially carry this burden because the world asks so much of you, asks you to be mother, wife, daughter, caregiver, nurturer. And somewhere in all that giving, all that being what others need, the woman you were supposed to become, she got forgotten. Not because you didn't love her, but because loving others seemed more important, more urgent, more noble somehow. And so she waited. Through the years of diapers and homework, through the years of caring for aging parents, through the years of making yourself smaller so others could be bigger, she waited. And maybe she's still waiting. Or maybe she's tired now. Maybe she's ready to rest. Jung believed that the second half of life, which is where you might be now, if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, the second half is about integration, about reclaiming what you lost, or if reclaiming isn't possible, about grieving, about letting go with consciousness instead of just pushing it all down into the shadow. And that's what tonight is about. Not bringing her back to life, because you can't. Time moved forward. Choices were made. Doors closed. But you can acknowledge her, honor her, let her know she mattered, even though she never got to be. I think about the dreams you had when you were young, before the world taught you to be realistic, before you learned that wanting too much made you selfish, before you understood that good girls, good women, they sacrifice. They don't chase dreams, they make homes. And there's nothing wrong with making homes, with caring for others. But Jung would ask, did you choose it, or did it choose you? And maybe you don't even know anymore. Maybe it's been so long since you asked yourself what you wanted that the question itself feels foreign, dangerous even. What do I want? Not what do they need, not what's responsible, but what do I, the woman beneath all the roles, what does she want? And maybe the answer is, I don't know anymore. Maybe she's been quiet for so long you can't hear her voice. Or maybe you can, just barely. In moments like this, uncriedom, when the world is sleeping and you're awake, lying here, and she whispers, remember me, I wanted to paint, or write, or travel, or just be free. Remember, there's a particular kind of grief. Jung wrote about this, the grief for the unlived life, and it's different from other griefs because there's no funeral, no marker, no one to share it with. You grieve alone for a person who never existed, for a life that never was. And yet, the grief is real as any loss, maybe more real, because it's the loss of possibility, of becoming, of all the yous that could have been. And society doesn't make space for this grief. When you lose a person you love, people understand. They send flowers. They say, "I'm sorry." But when you lose yourself, when you lose the woman you were supposed to become, there's no ceremony for that, no acknowledgement. You're just supposed to move on. Be grateful for what you have. And you are grateful, probably. But gratitude and grief, they can live in the same heart. Jung knew this. Jung knew this. You can be grateful for your children, your home, your life, and still grieve the life you didn't live, the woman you didn't become. Both things can be true. The roles we play, mother, wife, daughter, caregiver, these aren't bad things. Jung would never say they're bad, but they're not. The whole you, their parts, personas, masks you wear, and the tragedy happens when you forget there's a face beneath the mask. When you become so identified with the role that you lose touch with the self, the deeper you, and that's what's happened, isn't it? Somewhere along the way, you forgot. You weren't just mother. You were also, or you could have been, artist, adventurer, wild woman, free spirit. And now here you are, lying in the dark, and she's knocking. That forgotten woman, she's knocking from inside. And it hurts, because you know, you can't go back. You can't undo the years. You can't unmake the choices. Time only moves one direction. And she knows this too. That woman inside you. She knows she'll never get to live. Not fully. Not the way she was meant to. And maybe that's why tonight feels important. Because if she can't live, maybe she can, at least, be seen, be acknowledged, be mourned. Jung said, "We don't heal by fixing. We heal by becoming conscious." And maybe that's what this is. Not fixing the past, not changing anything, just becoming conscious of her, of what was lost, of what never was. And in that consciousness, in that acknowledgement, maybe, just maybe, there's a kind of peace. Does she have a name? This woman you never became? Or is she just a feeling, a sense of something missing? Jung worked with patients who would say, "I feel like I'm living someone else's life." And he would ask, "Whose life are you living?" And they'd say, "I don't know. My mother's, maybe. Or the life I thought I should want. Or the life that made everyone else happy." And he'd say, "And where is your life?" And they'd realize they didn't know. It got lost. Or maybe it never began. And if that's you, if you're living a life that doesn't quite feel like yours. Jung would say, it's not too late, not to become who you were supposed to be. That ship has sailed, but it's not too late to reclaim something, some small piece, some quality, some dream. Maybe not the whole thing, but something. Or maybe it is too late. Maybe you're older now, and the energy isn't there. The time isn't there. The world has moved on. And Jung would say, then grieve, properly grieve. Don't push it down. Don't tell yourself it doesn't matter. It does matter. She matters. The woman you never became. She deserves to be mourned. There's something about women, and I say this gently. Women are taught to sacrifice. It's in every story, every fairy tale. The good woman, she gives, she nurtures, she puts others first, and there's beauty in that, real beauty. But there's also a cost, and the cost is you, the you could have been. And somewhere deep down, you know this. You've always known this. But knowing it and having permission to feel it, those are different things. So tonight, as you lie here in the darkness with just my voice and your thoughts, I want to give you permission. Permission to feel the loss. Permission to acknowledge her. The woman who never got to live. Permission to say, yes, I had dreams. And no, they didn't come true. And yes, it hurts. And no, I don't have to be okay with it. I can be grateful for what I have and still grieve what I don't. Both things can be true. Jung believed the psyche is always trying to balance itself, always trying to bring into consciousness what's been pushed into shadow. And these feelings, this grief for the unlived life, they're rising now, not to punish you, not to make you miserable, but to complete something, to bring you into wholeness, even if that wholeness includes loss, includes grief, includes acknowledgement of what never was. I wonder if you could speak to her, the woman you never became. What would you say? Would you apologize? Or would you explain? Would you tell her, I had no choice? Or would you admit, I was scared? I was scared to be you, to want what you wanted, to live as freely as you would have lived. Because that kind of freedom, it's terrifying, isn't it? To really want, to really become, to really live without apologizing for taking up space. And maybe that's the real reason she never got to live. Not because of circumstances, not because of other people, but because she scared you. The bigness of her, the wildness of her, the unapologetic wanting of her. And so you chose safety, smallness, a life you could control, a life that wouldn't ask too much of you. And I'm not saying this to blame you. Jung never believed in blame. He believed in understanding. And maybe understanding this, that you chose safety over becoming. Maybe that's the first step toward something. Not fixing it, not going back, but integrating it, seeing it clearly, owning it. The woman you never became. She's not your enemy. She's not here to punish you with regret. She's just a part of you, a part that got left behind, And Jung would say, what do you do with parts that got left behind? You integrate them, if you can, or if you can't, you at least acknowledge them. You at least say, I see you. I know you're there. I'm sorry you never got to live, but I see you. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it has to be enough. Because you can't undo the past. You can't relive your life. You can't go back to that fork in the road and choose differently. The only thing you can do is be here now, in this moment, with the life you actually have, and with the grief for the life you don't. Both. At the same time. What did she want? This woman inside you. Really. Not in vague terms, but specifically. Did she want to paint, to write, to travel to India, to live in a small apartment in Paris, to have a different kind of love, to be alone, to be free, to be unneeded? Because maybe that was it. Maybe what she wanted most was to be unneeded, to not be responsible for anyone else's happiness, to not carry the weight of other people's needs, to just be. And maybe that sounds selfish, and maybe you've told yourself it is selfish. But Jung would ask, is it selfish to want to exist? Is it selfish to want your own life? Or is that just being human? And women, especially. This is the trap, isn't it? Wanting your own life gets called selfish. Choosing yourself gets called selfish. And so you don't. You choose everyone else. And the woman who would have chosen herself, she never gets to be born. She lives her whole existence in potential. In what if? In the space between who you are and who you could have been. There's a concept in Jungian psychology, the unlived life of the parent. Jung said it has a stronger influence on the child than anything else. Meaning, what you don't live, what you don't become, it doesn't just affect you, it affects your children. They feel it, they carry it, they try to live it for you, or they rebel against it. But either way, they're shaped by your unlived life, as much as by your lived one. And maybe that's the hardest part, knowing that your sacrifice, you're choosing to be mother instead of artist, you're choosing safety over dreams. Maybe it didn't even protect them the way you thought it would. Maybe they needed to see you living, becoming, choosing yourself sometimes. Maybe that would have taught them. It's okay to want. It's okay to become. It's okay to be. And I don't say this to add guilt. You've carried enough guilt. But Jung believed in truth, in seeing clearly. And the truth might be that everyone, you and them, everyone, paid a price for the woman who never got to live. So what now? You're lying here, in the middle of the night, middle of your life maybe, and you've spent an hour or more now thinking about her, the woman you never became. And you're feeling, what are you feeling? Grief. Probably. Maybe anger. Maybe regret. Maybe just a deep, deep tiredness. And Jung would say, feel it, all of it. Don't push it away. Don't go back to sleep. Not yet. Stay with this. Because this is the work. This is individuation. Becoming conscious of what was unconscious. Acknowledging what was denied. integrating what was split off. And it hurts. God, it hurts. But it's the only way through. There's no going back, no undoing, no second chance to become who you were supposed to be. That's the hard truth. But there is this moment, this acknowledgement, this seeing. And maybe, if you can really see her, really honor her, really grieve her, maybe then she can rest. Maybe then you can both rest. Because carrying her as an unlived potential, that's exhausting. Jung knew this. The unlived life drains us, depletes us, keeps us trapped in what if, what could have been, if only. But if you can transform the unlived into the mourned, the acknowledged, the honored, then maybe the weight lifts. Just a little, maybe. I think about all the women lying awake right now, just like you, thinking about the versions of themselves that never got to live. And it's so many, too many. Generations of women who put everyone else first, who chose safety over becoming, who learned to be small, to be acceptable, to be good, and all those unlived lives. They're in the collective unconscious, Jung would say. They're part of the feminine shadow of our culture. All that unlived wildness, unlived creativity, unlived freedom, it's there, waiting, aching. And maybe your unlived life isn't just yours. Maybe it's also your mother's, and her mother's, and all the women before who never got to be fully, who were told, good women don't, good women shouldn't, good women sacrifice. And so they did. They sacrificed, and their daughters saw, and learned, and sacrificed, too, and on, and on. Generation after generation of women who never got to live. And maybe that's why this grief feels so big. Because it's not just your grief. It's ancestral. It's all of them. All those women grieving together for lives never lived, for dreams never pursued, for wildness never expressed. And if that's true, if you're carrying not just your own unlived life, but generations of unlived lives, then maybe grieving this, honoring this, maybe that's bigger than just you. Maybe that's healing something old, deep, in the feminine soul. But that's big. Too big for tonight, maybe. Too big when you're just trying to sleep, to rest, to find some peace with the woman you never became. So let's come back to you, to this moment, to this specific life, your life, the one you actually lived, and the one you didn't. You made choices, or choices were made for you, or both, probably both. And those choices led you here, to this bed, this night, this body, this life. And it's not the life she would have lived, that other you, but it's the life you have. And Jung would say, can you? Is it possible to honor both, to grieve what wasn't, and accept what is, not in a resigned way, not in a giving up way, but in a this is what's true kind of way? This is what's true. You had dreams. They didn't come true. You had a version of yourself you wanted to become, and you didn't. You chose other things, or other things chose you. And now, you're here, older, aware of what you lost, what you never had, and it hurts. And it's also just true. Jung believed that the second half of life is about acceptance, not in a defeated way, but in a "this is what is, now what" kind of way. The first half is about building, becoming, achieving. And the second half is about accepting, integrating, letting go. And maybe part of what you have to let go of is her, the woman you never became. Maybe she has to die, properly die, not just live on as a ghost, as a haunting, as a constant reminder of what you're not, but actually die, be grieved, be buried, be released. And that might sound sad, but Jung didn't see death as sad. He saw it as necessary, part of the cycle. And maybe your unlived life needs to die so you can fully live the life you have, not the life you wish you had, not the life you could have had, but this one, the real one, the one that's here. And I know that's not what you want to hear. You want me to say, it's not too late. You can still become her. You can still live those dreams. And maybe you can. Maybe there are pieces you can reclaim, small pieces. But Jung was also honest. He didn't deal in false hope. And the honest truth is, time passed. You're not 20 anymore, or 30, or maybe even 40 or 50. And some doors, they closed. Not because you're not capable, not because you don't deserve it, but just because that's how time works. So maybe tonight, as you drift toward sleep, maybe what you need isn't hope. Maybe what you need is permission. Permission to grieve. Permission to let her go, the woman you never became. Permission to say, you were beautiful. You were full of dreams. You deserved to live, and you didn't get to. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I have to let you go now. I have to stop carrying you as a weight, as a regret, as a constant reminder of my failure. I have to let you rest. And in letting her rest, maybe you can rest too. Maybe the insomnia that brought you here tonight, the restlessness, the middle of the night, thinking. Maybe it's not just about the person you can't stop thinking about, or the emptiness you feel. Maybe it's also about her, the woman you never became. And she's tired, you're tired. And maybe tonight you can both finally sleep. Jung said, the psyche knows what it needs. It knows when it's time to let go, when it's time to grieve, when it's time to move forward. And maybe that's why you're here, why you found this meditation, why you're still listening. Because some part of you, the deep part, the wise part, knows it's time to stop carrying the unlived life as a burden. Time to transform it into something else. Memory, maybe. or gratitude for what could have been, or just acknowledgement. Yes, she existed in potential. Yes, she deserved to live. Yes, it's sad she didn't. And it's time to let her rest. It's time to let her rest. And you too, you need to rest. You've been carrying so much for so long. The roles, the responsibilities, the unlived dreams, the woman who never got to be. And you're tired, so tired. And Jung would say, that's okay, being tired. It's not weakness, it's just truth. You're tired, and you're allowed to be tired. And maybe tonight, instead of fighting it, instead of lying here thinking you should be asleep already, you should be over this already. You should have figured this out by now. Maybe tonight you can just be with it. Be with the tiredness. Be with the grief. Be with the woman inside you who never got to live. Be with all of it, without trying to fix it, without trying to make it make sense. Just be. Jung called this active imagination, sitting with what arises, not judging it, not pushing it away, just witnessing. And maybe that's what she needs, that woman you never became. Maybe she doesn't need you to bring her to life. Maybe she just needs you to witness her, see her, acknowledge, yes, you were here. You wanted to live. You deserved to live. And it didn't happen. And I see you. I see you. And so we continue. Deeper. Now. Into the night. Into this meditation. Into the question of what it means to let go of a life that never was. Jung spent years thinking about this. The unlived life. And what he discovered was, it's not just about what you didn't do. It's about who you didn't become. And those are different things, aren't they? You can do all the right things. Have the career, the family, the home, and still feel like someone else is living your life. Like you're watching from behind glass. And that's because doing isn't the same as being. And maybe the woman you never became, maybe she wasn't defined by what she would have done, but by who she would have been. And who would she have been if she'd been allowed to live? Would she have been softer, harder, wilder, quieter, more herself somehow, less apologetic, less afraid, less concerned with what others thought? Jung believed we're born whole, and then the world, family, society, culture, it all shapes us, teaches us, molds us, and in that molding, parts get cut away, hidden, denied, and those parts, they become the shadow, they become the unlived life. So maybe she wasn't a different person entirely. Maybe she was just you, but without the cutting away. You before you learned to be smaller. You before you learned that wanting made you selfish. You before you understood that good women sacrifice their dreams for other people's needs. She was you, uncut, whole, wild, and she's still there. Jung would insist on this. The parts we cut away, they don't die. They live in the unconscious, waiting, and sometimes, in the middle of the night, when your defenses are down, when you're too tired to keep pretending, they rise up. And you feel them. The longing, the ache, the sense that something's missing. And what's missing is her. You. The you that never got to live. And tonight, we're not trying to bring her back. That's not possible. Time only moves forward. But we are trying to, what's the word? Honor her, see her, let her know you mattered. Even though you never got to be, you mattered. There's something I want to tell you, something Jung understood but didn't always say directly. The unlived life. It's not your fault. You didn't choose to abandon her. Not really. You were conditioned, shaped, taught, and you learned your lessons well. You learned to be good, to be acceptable, to be what others needed. And in learning those lessons, she got left behind. But it wasn't a choice, not a conscious one. You were just surviving, trying to belong, trying to be loved, trying to be enough. And the cost of belonging, the cost of being loved, was her. Was the parts of you that were too much, too wild, too wanting, too alive. And I say this because maybe you've been blaming yourself. Maybe you lie here at night thinking, why didn't I? Why couldn't I? What's wrong with me that I never became who I was supposed to be? And Jung would say gently, nothing's wrong with you. You were just human, just trying to survive in a world that asks women to be small, contained, acceptable, self-sacrificing. And you did what you had to do. You became small. You learned to contain yourself. You made yourself acceptable. You sacrificed. And it worked. Probably. You survived. You were loved. Or loved enough. You belonged. Or belonged enough. But the cost was her. And now, decades later, you're feeling the weight of that cost. And it's heavy. Jung said something about the second half of life. He said it's when we have to pay for the unlived first half. And maybe that's what this is. This grief. This middle of the night aching. This sense of something missing. Maybe this is the payment. The reckoning. The moment when you have to look at what you gave up, who you never became, and feel the full weight of it. And it hurts. I know it hurts. But Jung also believed this reckoning, this paying, it's necessary. Because you can't become whole without it. You can't integrate the shadow without first acknowledging what's in the shadow. And she's in there. That unlived woman, waiting in the dark, waiting to be seen. Think about what you gave up for the life you have. Really think about it. Not in a vague way, but specifically. Did you give up education, creativity, adventure, freedom, solitude, wildness, love, a different kind of love? Did you give up yourself, your preferences, your voice, your right to say no, your right to want? Did you give up mornings alone with coffee and silence? Did you give up the art you used to make, the writing you used to do, the dreams you used to have of living differently? Did you give up the part of you that wanted to leave, to start over, to be someone else, somewhere else? And why did you give it up? For whom? For children, for a partner, for parents, for security, for approval, for the feeling of being needed, for the fear of being alone, for the belief that good women don't choose themselves, they choose others, always others. Jung would want you to be honest about this, not to shame you, but because consciousness requires honesty. And if you can't be honest about what you gave up and why, then you can't grieve it. You can't integrate it. You can't let it go. So be honest, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it makes you feel selfish or ungrateful or wrong. Be honest. You gave up parts of yourself. You gave up the woman you could have been. And maybe you had good reasons. Maybe you didn't. But either way, she's gone, and you're here. And somewhere in your psyche, there's a mourning happening. For her, for all she could have been. There's a particular pain in looking back at your younger self and seeing she had no idea. No idea how much she would give up, how small she would become, how quiet, how acceptable. And you want to go back, don't you? You want to tell her. Don't do it. Don't make yourself small. Don't sacrifice your dreams. Don't believe them when they say wanting makes you selfish. Run. While you still can. Run. But you can't go back. And maybe she wouldn't listen anyway. Maybe she was already too conditioned, too afraid, too desperate to belong. And so she made her choices, or let choices be made for her. And those choices led here, to this bed, this night, this life, and this grief. And Jung would say, that's okay. That's how it works. We make choices from where we are, with what we know. And sometimes, those choices, they close doors, and we don't realize until much later what we've closed, what we've lost, who we've left behind. And now you know. Now you see it clearly. The woman you never became, the life you never lived, and the seeing. It's painful, but it's also the beginning of something. What did Jung call it? Consciousness, wholeness, integration, the beginning of becoming real. You know what's interesting? Jung worked with so many women, patients, colleagues, and he saw this pattern over and over. Women in their 40s, 50s, coming to him saying, I don't know who I am. I've been mother, wife, daughter, caregiver. But who am I? Underneath all that, who am I? And he would ask them, who were you before? Before you became all those things? Who were you? And they couldn't remember, or they'd remember fragments. I liked to paint. I wanted to travel. I used to write poetry. I dreamed of living alone by the sea. Small fragments of a self that got buried. And Jung would say, those aren't just memories. Those are parts of your psyche. Still alive, still wanting, still waiting for you to remember, reclaim, become. But here's the thing, and this is where Jung was both compassionate and ruthlessly honest. Sometimes you can reclaim those parts, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes too much time has passed, too much has changed. You're not that person anymore. Your life won't allow for it, and all you can do is grieve. Grieve what never was. Grieve who you never became. And in grieving, let it transform. Let it become. Not a burden, not a constant weight of regret, but a memory, a tenderness, a sad knowing that, yes, there were other possibilities, and no, they didn't happen, and that's the truth of this one finite life, and I wonder if that's what you need to hear tonight. Not that you can still become her, not that it's not too late, but that it might be too late for some things, and that's okay. That's just how time works, how life works, and you can let yourself feel the sadness of that without needing to fix it, without needing to make it okay, just feeling it. This is what happened. This is what I chose. This is what I gave up. This is who I never became. And it's sad, and it's true, and I can feel both of those things. The sadness and the truth. And I don't have to make it mean something about my worth or my failure. It's just what is. Jung talked about accepting reality, not in a defeated way, but in a "this is what's real. Now what?" kind of way. And maybe the now what for you is grieving. Properly grieving. The woman who never got to live, having a funeral for her. In your heart. In this quiet, dark night. Saying goodbye to who you could have been. So you can, finally, fully, be who you are. And who are you? Right now, in this moment, lying here in bed, listening to these words, breathing in, breathing out. Who are you? Not who you were supposed to be. Not who you wanted to be. Not who others needed you to be. But who you actually are, right now. Can you even answer that? Or has it been so long since you've asked? Since you've checked in with yourself, not with your roles, not with your responsibilities, but with you. The you beneath all of it. The you that exists even when no one's looking, even when no one needs anything. Who is that? And maybe you don't know. Maybe that's part of the problem. You've been so busy being everything to everyone that you've lost touch with yourself, your own preferences, your own desires, your own being, and the woman you never became. Maybe she's calling to you saying, remember. Remember who you are, not who they need you to be, who you are. There's a meditation Jung used to do. He called it active imagination, where you sit quietly and you let images arise, let figures appear from the unconscious, and you dialogue with them. You ask them, who are you? What do you want? What are you trying to show me? And maybe, if you weren't so tired, if you weren't trying to sleep, maybe you could do that. Maybe you could close your eyes and invite her, the woman you never became. Invite her to appear and see what she looks like, what she says, what she needs from you. But you are tired and you are trying to sleep, and maybe the active imagination can wait for another time. Maybe tonight, you just need to be with her the way you'd be with a friend who's grieving. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to say the right thing. You just sit with them in their sadness, in their loss, and let them know you're here. I'm here with you in this. And so you're here with her, the woman who never got to live, and you're not trying to bring her back. You're not trying to make promises you can't keep. You're just acknowledging. Yes, you existed in possibility. Yes, you wanted to live. Yes, you deserved a chance. And no, it didn't happen. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And maybe that's enough. Maybe she doesn't need more than that. Maybe what she's been waiting for all these years, all these decades, is just to be seen, to be acknowledged, to hear you say, I know you're there. I know what I gave up. I know what we lost. And I see you. Jung believed the psyche doesn't need everything to be fixed. It just needs to be witnessed, seen, held in awareness. And when we do that, when we bring something from the unconscious into consciousness, something shifts. Not magically, not easily, but something shifts. The shadow loses some of its power when it's seen. The unlived life loses some of its haunting quality when it's acknowledged. And maybe, if you can really see her, really honor her, really grieve her, maybe then she can stop haunting you. Stop waking you up in the middle of the night with this ache, this longing, this sense of something missing. Maybe then she can rest, and you can rest. Both of you, finally, can rest. I'm thinking about a patient of Jung's. He wrote about her, a woman in her 50s, who came to him because she couldn't sleep, couldn't stop thinking about, what if she'd made different choices? What if she'd chosen differently? What if she'd been braver? And Jung listened. And then he said something like, you're grieving your unlived life. And she said, but is that allowed? Can I grieve something that never happened? And he said, you must grieve it, or it will devour you. It will eat your present, your future, everything. You must grieve what never was, so you can live what is. And maybe that's what you need to hear tonight. Permission to grieve. Permission to feel the loss of who you never became. Because it is a loss. It is real. And it does deserve to be mourned. You're not being dramatic. You're not being ungrateful. You're not being selfish. You're being human. A human who had infinite potential and was forced by circumstance, by conditioning, by life, to choose one narrow path. And all the other paths, all the other versions of you, they died. They never got to be born. And that is worth grieving. So grieve. Let yourself grieve, lying here in the dark, with no one watching, no one judging, just you and her, the woman you never became. And let the tears come if they want to come. Let the ache settle in your chest. Let yourself feel it. Really feel it. Because Jung was right. Unfelt grief, unacknowledged loss, it doesn't go away. It just burrows deeper, becomes symptom, becomes depression, becomes this middle-of-the-night restlessness, this sense that something's wrong but you can't name what. But you can name it now. What's wrong is you never got to become who you were supposed to be. You never got to live the life that was calling you. And that's a real loss, a true loss. And it deserves your tears, your acknowledgement, your grief. And in the grieving, something happens. Jung knew this. In the grieving, there's a kind of alchemy, a transformation. What was unlived potential, heavy, haunting, becomes integrated memory, becomes part of your story, becomes not a wound, but a scar. Still tender maybe, but healed. And maybe that's what tonight is, the beginning of healing. Not fixing, not going back, not undoing, but healing. The kind of healing that comes from honesty, from seeing clearly, from letting yourself feel what you've been pushing away for years, decades maybe. You've been pushing her away, haven't you? The woman you never became. Because looking at her, acknowledging her, it hurts too much. It brings up too much regret, too much sadness, too much what if. And so you pushed her down, stayed busy, focused on what you do have instead of what you don't. Told yourself to be grateful, to move on, to stop dwelling, to stop being dramatic. But she wouldn't stay down, would she? She kept rising in the middle of the night, in quiet moments, in the space between sleep and waking. She kept whispering, "Remember me," and you'd push her down again. "Not now. I can't deal with this now. I have to be strong. I have to keep going." But Jung would say, "You can't keep pushing her down forever. Eventually, she'll demand to be seen, to be heard, to be grieved." And maybe that's why you're here tonight. Maybe you can't push her down anymore. Maybe she's demanding, finally, to be acknowledged. And you're tired of fighting it, tired of pretending, tired of pushing down the grief. And so, here you are, in the middle of the night, finally, letting yourself feel it. And it's hard. God, it's hard. But it's also relief, isn't it? Relief to stop pretending, to stop being strong, to stop pushing it all down. Relief to just feel it. The loss, the grief, the sadness, the anger maybe, at yourself, at life, at all the forces that kept you from becoming who you were supposed to be. Feel it all, Jung would say. Feel all of it. Don't pick and choose. Don't say, "I can feel sad but not angry. I can grieve but not rage." Feel all of it. Because the psyche, it's messy, it's contradictory, it holds everything at once. Sadness and anger, grief and relief, regret and acceptance, all of it, all at the same time. And you're allowed to be angry. Did you know that? You're allowed to be angry that you never got to become her. Angry at the world that demanded you be small. Angry at yourself for going along with it. Angry at the people who needed you to sacrifice your dreams for theirs. Angry. And you're also allowed to accept it. To say, "This is what happened. This is what I chose." Or what was chosen for me. And I can be angry and I can accept it. Both things true at the same time. Jung didn't believe in either or. He believed in both and. You can grieve and be grateful. You can be angry and accept it. You can feel the loss and still love the life you have. All of it can be true at once. And maybe that's what you need, not to choose between grieving the unlived life and being grateful for the life you have. but to hold both, to feel both, to let both be true, because they are both true, aren't they? You do have things to be grateful for, probably many things, and you also lost something, someone, the woman you never became, and both of those things matter. Both deserve acknowledgement. Jung talked about the tension of opposites, how the psyche holds contradictions, and how growth happens, not by resolving the contradictions, but by learning to hold them both, to stand in the tension without needing to make it go away. And maybe that's what this is, learning to stand in the tension of, I'm grateful for what I have, and I'm grieving what I don't. I love parts of my life, and I'm sad about the life I never lived. I did my best, and my best wasn't enough to become who I was supposed to be. Both. 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 The woman you never became. She's not asking you to regret everything. She's not asking you to hate your life. She's just asking to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be grieved, and then, maybe, to be released. Because holding on to her as unlived potential, as constant regret, as this weight you carry, that's not honoring her. That's just suffering. And Jung didn't believe suffering was necessary or noble. He believed consciousness was necessary, awareness was necessary. But suffering, that's just what happens when we resist, when we don't grieve, when we don't let go. So, maybe it's time to stop suffering, time to stop carrying her as a burden, time to grieve her properly, completely, and then let her go, let her rest. Let yourself rest, both of you. You're both so tired of this dance, this middle of the night aching, this constant sense of something missing. And maybe tonight you can both lay down the burden and just rest. Jung said, the psyche heals itself if we let it, if we get out of the way, if we stop trying to control everything, stop trying to fix everything, and just let it be. Let it unfold. Let it do its work. And maybe that's what's happening right now. The psyche doing its work, bringing her up, the unlived woman, so she can finally be seen, be grieved, be integrated. And you don't have to do anything. You don't have to fix anything. You just have to let it happen. Let yourself feel it. Let the grief move through you like water, like breath. Let it be. There's something I want you to know, something Jung understood deeply. This grief you're feeling for the woman you never became, it's not a sign that you failed. It's a sign that you're waking up, becoming conscious, seeing clearly, maybe for the first time, and consciousness. It hurts. It's painful to see what you couldn't see before, to understand what you didn't understand, to feel what you've been avoiding. But it's also the only way forward, the only way to wholeness, to integration, to becoming real. And you're becoming real right now, in this moment, lying in the dark, feeling this grief, acknowledging this loss. You're more real than you've been in years, maybe decades, because you're not pretending anymore. You're not pushing down the truth. You're just feeling it, being with it, letting it be. And that's brave. Jung would say that's the bravest thing, to feel what you've been avoiding, to look at what you've been hiding from, to acknowledge what you've been denying. That's the hero's journey, not slaying dragons, not conquering enemies, but facing yourself, facing your shadow, facing your unlived life. And you're doing it right now. You're on the journey. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it's hard. Yes, you'd rather be sleeping peacefully than lying here feeling this grief. But this is the work. This is individuation. This is becoming whole. And Jung believed, on the other side of this, on the other side of the grief, the acknowledgement, on the other side, the conscious suffering, on the other side, there's peace. Not happiness necessarily, not everything fixed, but peace. The peace of knowing yourself fully, of seeing yourself clearly, of integrating all the parts, even the parts that never got to live. The woman you never became, she's a part of you. And when you grieve her, when you honor her, when you integrate her into your consciousness, she doesn't have to haunt you anymore. She doesn't have to wake you up in the middle of the night. She can finally rest. And so can you. So let's do that now. Let's let her rest. Let's give her the acknowledgement she's been waiting for, the grief she deserves. And then, let's release her. Let her go, with love, with honor, with gratitude for what she could have been, but also with acceptance that she never was and never will be. And that's okay. That's just the truth of one finite life. You can't be everything. You can't live every possibility. You have to choose, or let choices be made. And in choosing one path, all the other paths, they die. And she died, the woman you never became. She died when you chose differently, or when different was chosen for you. And she deserves a funeral, deserves mourning, deserves to be laid to rest. So rest now. Rest. You've carried her long enough. You've felt the weight of her long enough. It's time to lay down the burden. Time to say, I see you. I honor you. I grieve you. And now, I release you. Go. Rest. Be at peace. And let me be at peace too. Both of you. Rest now. The work is done. The acknowledgement complete. The grief felt. And now, just rest. And so we arrive at the end. Or maybe not the end. Maybe just a resting place. A moment of stillness after all this feeling, all this grieving, all this acknowledging the woman you never became. And you're still here, still breathing, still lying in this bed. And she's here too, that unlived woman. But maybe she feels different now. Maybe the weight of her has shifted just a little. Because you've done something tonight, something important. You've seen her. You've grieved her. You've let yourself feel the full weight of what it means to never become who you were supposed to be. And Jung would say, that matters. That changes something. Not everything, not magically, but something. Because what's conscious, what's brought into awareness, it can't haunt you the same way anymore. It loses some of its power, some of its hold, and maybe, just maybe, she can start to rest. And you can too. There's something about the end of night. Even if dawn is still hours away, there's a quality to this deep time. This 4 a.m., 3 a.m., whenever you're listening. There's a thinness to it, a quiet, where things that were hidden can finally surface and be seen. And tonight, she surfaced. The woman you never became. And you didn't turn away. You didn't push her back down. You stayed with her. You listened. You felt. You grieved. And now, maybe, you can both breathe. Jung believed that the psyche is always moving toward wholeness, always trying to integrate what's been split off, bring into consciousness what's been hidden in shadow. And this unlived life, this woman who never got to be, she's been waiting in the shadow for you to finally look at her. And you have. You did. Tonight you looked. And yes, it hurt. God, it hurt. But you didn't die from it. You didn't break. You just felt it. And in feeling it, something opened, something shifted, something began to heal. What happens now? That's probably what you're wondering. I've grieved her. I've acknowledged her. Now what? Do I just go back to my life? Forget about her again? Push her down again? Pretend this never happened? And Jung would say, no, you don't forget. But you also don't dwell. You integrate. You take what you've learned tonight about yourself, about what you gave up, about who you never became, and you live with it differently. Not as a wound, not as a constant source of pain, but as part of your story, part of what makes you, you. The lived life and the unlived life, both part of who you are. And maybe there are small things you can reclaim, small pieces of her, the woman who never became. Maybe you can't become her fully, can't go back and choose differently, can't undo the years, but maybe there are small ways you can honor her, small ways you can let her live, even now, even in this life you actually have. What did she love, that woman? What brought her alive? Was it painting, writing, music, solitude, nature, creativity, freedom, movement? And maybe you can give yourself small doses of that. Not to become her, not to undo the past, but just to honor what she loved. Honor what you loved before you learn to only love what others needed you to love. Maybe you can paint again, even if it's just 15 minutes on a Sunday morning, even if you're not good anymore, even if it's just for you, no one else, just you. Reclaiming that small piece. Maybe you can write again. Morning pages, a journal, poems no one will ever read. Just words flowing, the way they used to flow before you learned to only write grocery lists and to-do lists. Maybe you can have solitude again. an hour, a morning, a whole day, if you're brave. Just being alone, without guilt, without feeling like you should be doing something for someone. Just being with yourself, with the woman inside who's been waiting so long for you to notice her. These are small things. Jung would call them small acts of integration, small ways of bringing the shadow into the light, the unlived life into the lived. And they don't undo the past. They don't make up for all the years, all the dreams deferred, but they matter. They tell her, the woman you never became, you still matter. What you loved still matters. And even though you never got to fully live, I can honor you in small ways, in the life I actually have. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it has to be enough. Because you can't go back. You can't relive your life. You can only move forward with consciousness, with integration, with small acts of honoring what was lost. And in those small acts, something happens. The grief doesn't disappear. The loss doesn't go away, but it softens. It becomes bearable. It becomes part of the texture of your life instead of the thing that's eating you alive. Jung worked with a woman once. I think I mentioned her before, who couldn't sleep, who was haunted by her unlived life. And after months of analysis, of grieving, of integrating, she came to him and said, I still feel the loss. I still know what I gave up, but it doesn't hurt the same way. It's just part of me now, part of my story, and I can live with it. And he said, yes, that's it. That's integration, not making it go away, not fixing it, just learning to live with it as part of the whole, the lived and the unlived, the choices made and the choices not made, all of it, all part of one life, one psyche, one self. And maybe that's what you're learning tonight. You can live with this. You can carry the knowledge of who you never became, and it doesn't have to destroy you. It can just be part of your truth, part of what makes you deep, aware, conscious, real. You're lying here, and maybe you're starting to feel tired now, really tired. The kind of tired that comes after crying, after feeling deeply, after doing soul work. And that's good. That means the psyche has done what it needed to do tonight. It's brought something up. You've looked at it, felt it, grieved it. And now, your body knows. It's time to rest. Time to let go of the thinking, the analyzing, the grieving. Just for now. Just for tonight. You can pick it up again tomorrow if you need to. But right now, it's time to sleep, to let your conscious mind rest and let the unconscious do its work. And the unconscious, Jung believed it works while we sleep, processing, integrating, weaving together what we've experienced, what we've felt, what we've come to understand. And tonight, it has a lot to work with, a lot to integrate. The woman you never became, the grief you felt, the acknowledgement you've given, all of it. The unconscious will work with it while you sleep. You don't have to figure it all out tonight. You don't have to know what it all means. You don't have to have a plan for how to live with this new awareness. You just have to rest. Trust that the psyche knows what it's doing. Trust that this grief, this acknowledgement, this consciousness, it's moving you toward something, toward wholeness, toward integration, toward peace. And peace. Jung didn't think peace meant everything's perfect, everything's resolved. He thought peace meant you can hold the contradictions, you can live with the paradoxes, you can accept that some things hurt, and that's just how it is. And you can accept this. The woman you never became, she's part of you. She hurts, and that's just how it is. And you can live with that. You can carry that. Without it breaking you, without it defining you. It's just one thread in the tapestry of who you are. There are other threads too. The woman you did become, the mother maybe, the wife, the daughter, the caregiver, the friend, the worker, the survivor. All of those are threads too, all part of the tapestry. And yes, there's a missing thread, the unlived woman. But she's not the whole tapestry. She's just one thread among many. And maybe that's what you needed to remember tonight. Yes, she matters. Yes, it's sad she never got to live. But she's not all of you. You're also all these other things, all these other versions you did become. And they matter too. They count too. You did survive. You did raise children if you had them. You did care for people. You did show up. You did build something. Maybe not the life she would have built, but a life. Your life. The one you actually lived. And it counts. It matters. Even if it's not the one you dreamed of. And Jung would want you to honor that too. Not just grieve what wasn't, but honor what was, what is. The life you actually lived. The woman you actually became. She deserves acknowledgement too. She deserves to be seen too. Not just the unlived one, but the lived one. Because she's been working so hard, hasn't she? The woman you did become. She's been carrying so much, doing so much, being so much for so many people. And maybe she's tired. Maybe she needs rest. Maybe she needs to hear, you did okay. You did your best. And your best was enough, enough. You are enough. Not the woman you could have been, but the woman you are, right here, right now. Lying in this bed, breathing in and out. You are enough. And I know that's hard to believe, especially after spending hours grieving who you never became. But both things are true. You can grieve the unlived life, and you can honor the lived life. You can feel the loss, and you can acknowledge the gain. You can hold both. Jung's both and both. You lost something. You gave up someone, the woman you never became. And you gained something too. You became someone else. Someone who survived, who endured, who showed up, who loved even when it was hard, who kept going even when you were tired. And that woman, the one you did become, she's here tonight. She's the one lying in this bed. And she deserves rest. She deserves to lay down the burden of the unlived life. Not forever, maybe. But for tonight, just for tonight, she deserves to rest. So, Let's rest. Let's stop the thinking, the grieving, the analyzing. Let's just breathe and be and rest. You can feel it probably. The weight of your body against the bed, the heaviness in your limbs, the tiredness in your eyes. And that's good. That's your body saying, enough. Enough consciousness for tonight. Enough feeling. Enough work. Now, rest. And the woman you never became, she's resting too. You've given her what she needed. Acknowledgement, grief, honor. And now, she can rest. She doesn't have to fight for your attention anymore. Doesn't have to wake you up in the middle of the night. Doesn't have to haunt you. Because you've seen her. Finally, truly seen her. And that was all she wanted. Just to be seen. To be known. To have you acknowledge. Yes, you existed. Yes, you mattered. Yes, it's sad you never got to live. Yes, I'm sorry. And now, rest, both of you. The lived woman and the unlived woman. Both of you. Rest. There's nothing more to do tonight. Nothing more to figure out. Nothing more to grieve. It's all been felt. All been acknowledged. And now, there's just this quiet, this darkness, this bed, this breath, this moment. And in this moment, you can let go. Let go of the thinking. Let go of the past. Let go of the future. Let go of the woman you never became. Let go of the woman you wish you were. Let go of everything. And just be here, now, breathing, resting, being. Jung called this surrender, not giving up, but letting go of the need to control, to fix, to understand, just surrendering to what is. And what is this, you, here, tired, grieving maybe, but also alive, breathing, real. And that's enough. You being here, breathing, that's enough. You don't have to be anyone else. You don't have to become anything else. You can just be this you, the woman you are, right now, with all your lived experiences and all your unlived dreams. All of it. All part of you. All enough. The night is deep now and quiet, and you can feel it, can't you? The stillness, the peace, not the peace of everything being perfect, but the peace of acceptance, of letting be, rest. And in this peace, in this stillness, you can sleep, finally, deeply. You can let your conscious mind go quiet. Let your body relax fully. Let the grief soften into just sadness, and the sadness soften into just knowing, and the knowing soften into just being, and the being soften into sleep, deep sleep, the kind that heals, the kind that integrates, the kind that restores. And while you sleep, the psyche will work, will weave together everything you've felt tonight, everything you've understood, everything you've grieved. It will weave it into the tapestry of who you are. And when you wake, you'll still remember. You'll still know about the woman you never became. But maybe it won't hurt quite the same way. Maybe it will just be part of your story, part of what makes you, you, and you'll be able to carry it more lightly, more gently, with more compassion for yourself, for the choices you made, for the woman you became, and for the woman you didn't. Jung believed in compassion for ourselves, for our failures, for our unlived lives, for all the ways we fall short of who we thought we'd be. And maybe that's what you need most. Not to become her, not to fix the past, but just compassion for the young woman who had dreams, compassion for the woman who gave them up, compassion for the woman who's lying here now, tired, grieving, trying to make sense of it all, compassion. You did your best with what you knew, with what you had, with the conditioning you received, with the options you could see. You did your best, and your best led you here. And here is, okay, it's not everything you hoped for, maybe, but it's what is, and you can be okay with what is. You can release the need for it to be different. Release the need to go back. Release the need to become who you never became. You can just let it be. Let her be the unlived woman. Let her rest in peace, in the shadow, in the realm of what could have been. And let yourself, the lived woman, rest too, here, in the realm of what is, both of you, resting, finally. And as you rest, as you drift toward sleep, let yourself feel gratitude, maybe, not for the loss, but for the consciousness, for the awareness, for the courage it took to feel this, to grieve this, to look at the woman you never became and not turn away. That took courage, and you did it. And Jung would honor that, would say, that's the work. That's individuation. That's becoming whole. Not by being perfect, not by living every possibility, but by seeing clearly, accepting fully, integrating consciously. And you're doing it right now, in this moment. You're becoming whole, not by becoming who you never were, but by accepting who you are. All of it. The lived and the unlived. The dreams fulfilled and the dreams deferred. All of it. Part of one life. Your life. And your life, it's not over. Jung would want you to know that. Yes, you're older now. Yes, some doors have closed, but you're still here, still breathing, still alive, and there's still time, not to become who you never were, but to live more fully as who you are, to make different choices maybe, small ones, to honor what you love, to say no sometimes, to choose yourself occasionally, to let the woman inside, the one who's been waiting so long, to let her have moments, small moments of freedom, of expression, of being. She doesn't need the whole life. She doesn't need you to undo everything. She just needs moments, and you can give her that. You can give yourself that, starting whenever you're ready. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe you need to rest first, to integrate first, to just be for a while. But someday, when you're ready, you can give her, give yourself, small moments of becoming. And in those moments, she lives, not fully, not the way she would have, but enough to honor her, enough to say, I see you, I remember you, and even though you never got your whole life, you can have this moment, this hour, this small piece, and maybe that's all she ever wanted, just to be remembered, to be honored, to know she mattered. The unlived life. Jung said it never fully goes away. It's always there, part of the shadow, part of what we carry, but it doesn't have to devour us. It doesn't have to define us. It can just be there, in the background, a quiet sadness, a tender knowing, a reminder of all that we are, all that we could have been, and all that we chose, or all that chose us. And we can live with that. We can carry that without it breaking us. Because we're stronger than we think, more whole than we know, more capable of holding contradictions, of living with loss, of being fully human, with all the joy and all the sorrow that comes with this one precious finite life, your life, this life, the only one you get. And yes, there are parts you wish were different. Yes, there's a woman inside who never got to live. Yes, it hurts. And yes, you can still rest. You can still find peace. You can still be okay. Not everything has to be perfect. Not everything has to be resolved. You can just be here, now, in this imperfect, beautiful, heartbreaking real life. And that can be enough. You can be enough. The woman you never became. She's resting now. You've given her what she needed. And the woman you did become, she can rest too. She's done enough. She's been enough. She is enough. And so, as the night deepens, as your body grows heavier, as your mind grows quieter, as the grief softens into something more like peace, more like acceptance, more like rest, let yourself drift. Let yourself float on the darkness like water. Let yourself sink into the bed like earth. Let yourself dissolve into sleep like mist into air. Let yourself go. There's nothing to hold on to now. Nothing to figure out. Nothing to fix. There's just this breathing, this being, this quiet, this rest. And in the rest, the psyche heals, integrates, becomes whole, and you become more yourself. Not the self you thought you should be, but the self you are, with all your contradictions, all your losses, all your unlived dreams, all of it woven together into you. Beautiful, imperfect, real, you. And you are enough. Right now, as you are enough. So sleep now, deep and dreamless, or deep and full of dreams. Either way, sleep. Let the unconscious do its work. Let the body restore itself. Let the psyche integrate what you've learned tonight about loss, about grief, about the woman you never became, and about the woman you are. Let it all settle. Let it all soften. Let it all rest. You've done the work. You've felt the feelings. You've grieved the loss. And now you can sleep deeply, peacefully, knowing you've honored her, the woman you never became. You've seen her, you've grieved her, and now you can let her rest, and you can rest too. Finally, fully, completely, rest. The woman you never became, she's at peace now, and so are you, both of you, at peace in this deep night, this quiet darkness, this sacred space between who you were, who you are, and who you might still become. But that's for another day, for another time. For now, there's only this breath, this moment, this deep rest. Sleep well, dear one. Sleep well. You've earned it. You've done the work. And now you can rest. The unlived life, it will still be there tomorrow, but it won't hurt the same way. Because you've done something tonight. You've brought it into consciousness. You've grieved it. You've honored it. And in doing so, you've taken away its power to haunt you. And the lived life, your actual life, it will be there tomorrow too. And maybe you'll see it a little differently, with a little more compassion, a little more acceptance, a little more peace. But tomorrow is far away. And right now, there's only sleep, only rest, only this deep letting go. So let go of everything. The past, the future, the woman you never became, the woman you are. Let it all drift away into the darkness, into the quiet, into sleep, deep sleep. And as you sleep, know that you are held by something larger than yourself, by the psyche, by the unconscious, by whatever you want to call it, the universe, the divine, the mystery. You are held. You are not alone in this. You've never been alone. And the woman you never became, she's not alone either. She's part of you, part of the great collective of unlived lives, all the dreams that never came true, all the selves that never got to be, and they're all resting now, together, in the great mystery of what could have been, what never was, and what is. And what is this, you, breathing, resting, sleeping, being. And that is everything. That is enough. So rest now, completely, deeply, fully. Rest. The work is done. The grief is felt. The woman is honored. And now, there is only peace, only quiet, only sleep, 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 deep and healing and whole. You are whole, even with all that's missing, even with all that never was. You are whole, and in your wholeness, you can rest. So rest, dear one, rest. The night holds you. The darkness cradles you. The silence soothes you. And you can finally let go. And sleep. Sleep now, knowing you are seen. You are honored. You are enough. The woman you never became. She is at peace.